Hello, what's that? Thought Diggory. Fire engine? I wonder what house is on fire. Great Scott, it's coming here. Why, it's her. I needn't tell you who he meant by her. First came the hansom. There was no one in the driver's seat. On the roof, not sitting, but standing on the roof, swaying with superb balance as it came at full speed round the corner with one wheel in the air, was Jardis, the Queen of Queens, the terror of Charn. Her teeth were bared, her eyes shone like fire, and her long hair streamed out behind her like a comet's tail. She was flogging the horse without mercy. Its nostrils were wide and red, and its sides were spotted with foam. It galloped madly up to the front door, missing the lamp-post by an inch, and then reared up on its hind legs. A hansom crashed into the lamp-post and shattered into several pieces. The witch, with a magnificent jump, had sprung clear just in time and landed on the horse's back. She settled herself astride and leaned forward, whispering things into its ear. They must have been things meant not to quieten it, but madden it. It was on its hind legs again in a moment, and its neigh was like a scream. It was all hoofs and teeth, and its eyes and tossing mane. Only a splendid rider could have stayed on its back. Before Diggory had recovered his breath, a good many other things began to happen. A second hansom dashed up close behind the first. Out of it jumped a fat man in a frock coat and a policeman. Then came a third hansom with 2 more policemen in it. After it came about 20 people, mostly errand boys, on bicycles, all ringing their bells and letting out cheers and catcalls. Last of all came a crowd of people on foot, all very hot with running, but obviously enjoying themselves. Windows shot up in all the houses of the street, and a housemaid or a butler appeared at every front door. They wanted to see the fun. Meanwhile, an old gentleman had begun to struggle shakily out of the ruins of the first hansom. Several people rushed forward to help him, but as one pulled him one way, another, and perhaps he would have got out quite as quickly on his own. Diggory guessed that the old man must be Uncle Andrew, but you couldn't see his face. His tall hat had been bashed down over it. Diggory rushed out and joined the crowd. That's the woman, cried the fat man, pointing at Jardis. Do your duty, constable. Hundreds and thousands of pounds worth she's taken out of my shop. Look at that rope of pearls round her neck. That's mine, and she's given me a black eye too, what's more. That she has, governor, said one of the crowd, and as lovely a black eye as I'd wish to see. Beautiful bit of work that must have been. Gaw, ain't she strong then? You ought to have a nice piece of beef raw steak on it, mister, that's what you wants, said the butcher's boy. Now then, said the most important of the policemen, what's all this here? I tell you, began the fat man, when someone else called her. Boy, don't let the old cove in the cab get away. He put her up to it. The old gentleman, who was certainly Uncle Andrew, had just succeeded in standing up and was rubbing his bruises. Now then, said the policeman, turning to him, what's all this? Wumph, shumph, came Uncle Andrew's voice from inside the hat. None of that now, said the policeman sternly. You'll find this no laughing matter. Take that hat off, see? This was more easily said than done. But after Uncle Andrew had struggled in vain with the hat for some time, 2 other policemen seized it by the brim and forced it off. Oh, thank you, said Uncle Andrew in a faint voice. Thank you, dear me, I'm terribly shaken. If someone could give me a small glass of brandy. Now attend to me, if you please, said the policeman, taking out a very large notebook and a very small pencil. Are you in charge of that there young woman? Look out, cried several voices, and the policeman jumped a step backwards just in time. The horse had aimed a kick at him, which would have probably killed him. Then the witch wheeled the horse round so that she faced the crowd and its hind legs were on the footpath. She had a long, bright knife in her hand, and she'd been busily cutting the horse free from the wreck of the hansom. All this time, Diggory had been trying to get into a position from which he could touch the witch. Now, this wasn't at all easy because on the side nearest to him there were too many people, and in order to get round to the other side he had to pass between the horse's hooves and the railings of the area that surrounded the house. For the Kettle's house had a basement. If you know anything about horses, and especially if you've seen what a state that horse was in at the moment, you'll realise that this was a ticklish thing to do. Diggory knew lots about horses, but he set his teeth and got ready to make a dash for it as soon as he saw a favourable moment. A red-faced man in a bowler hat now shouldered his way to the front of the crowd. "Aye, policeman," he said. "That's my horse that she's sitting on, same as it's my cab what she's made matchwood of." One at a time," said the policeman. "But there ain't no time," said the cabby. "I know that horse better than you do. 'Tain't an ordinary horse. Its father's was an officer's charger in the cavalry, he was. And if that young woman goes on exciting him, there'll be murder done. Here, let me get at him." The policeman was only too glad to have a good reason for standing further away from the horse. The cabby took a step nearer, looked up at Jardice and said in a not unkindly voice, "Now, missy, let me get his head. And you just get off. You're a lady. You don't want all these roughs going for you, do you? You want to go home and have a nice cup of tea and a lay down quiet like. Then you'll feel ever so much better." At the same time he stretched out his hand towards the horse's head with the words, "Steady, Strawberry, old boy, steady now." Then, for the first time, the witch spoke. "Dog," came her cold, clear voice, ringing loud above all the other noises. "Dog, unhand our royal charger. We are the Emperor Jadis."